Uh, Nothing happened today. So Cal says nothing happened today. So I think he's in the middle. And let's see, Scott is the joke E. So is Agnes. And so is our guest of honor, Dr. Crosthwaite is also one that gets tricked. Thank you, Sunnyvale Community Services, for hosting us. My commissioners and people are, let's see, so we'll do this again. So Carter is the library board. Doug is Sustainability Commission. Agnes is on the Arts Commission. Scott is on the Housing and Human Services Commission. Peggy is a school board member. And Livable Sunnyvale, otherwise known as Mike Cerrone, is our planning commissioner. And Paulina is on the Human Relations Commission. So welcome, everyone. What are my announcements? So one of the first announcements is the Earth Day. And Agnes is going to talk about Earth Day.
Actually, I'm going to start off and then I'm going to let Doug finish talking about Earth Day. So we do have our booth. Earth Day is April 11th, and the event is from 11 until 2. And I'm going to put my email address in the chat because if anyone wants to come and help volunteer at our booth, you're more than welcome to do so. Our booth will be flanked by Leadership Sunnyvale on one side and Otto Lee on the other. So we may have gotten a primo spot. So you can take it away, Doug.
All right. So what we've put together is trying to make sure that we have something that's interactive and age appropriate. There's a lot of families there, but gets across livable Sunnyvale and the kinds of things that we were hoping to inspire kids to think about. So we're planning to have one activity that is what is your dream block. So we'll be giving out sheets of paper, and there are going to be boxes that kids can pick things out of to add elements to the block. So we're going to have mixed use buildings and electric vehicle chargers and bike lanes and crosswalks and things like that. So parklets. So encouraging kids to think outside the single family house and how to construct a greener city. So we'll have our thumbs on the scale a little bit. And then instead of having brochures to give out, what we're planning to do is have a little blurb about Livable Sunnyvale on the back, so that instead of having to chase down the parents, it's just the precious sheet of paper that their child has painstakingly constructed with glue sticks. In addition, we're going to have off to the side a dot exercise, which is basic, has questions for kids like, what do you want to see more of in Sunnyvale? And we can have, again, some theme appropriate things for the kids to vote on. So, they can stick dots on them. That's also training for what you often see in like public outreach meetings. The third element, and so Livable Sunnyvale board, we're going to ask you to cough up the big bucks. It's probably going to be $5 to $10 per board member as a Bookosaurus gift certificate, and so that also helping to give some excitement and entice foot traffic, just to say, hey, if you make your block, you can enter for the drawing. And Agnes, I believe you're collecting the dollars for that, so.
Yes, I will actually be collecting the dollars from our board members without interest, as is the norm.
So hoping to have other folks who are in the room or online who might want to contribute, be part of the booth, and it's a good chance to make it interactive. As kids are adding things to their block, asking them why. So just drawing them out, and hopefully we can subtly highlight the advantages of the different things that they're applying without having too much of a lecture being given. I'll leave it there.
Right. So thank you for that. Another announcement is, as we do most Mays, we renew and look for board members. So we have some board elections in May. And if you are interested in joining the board, please contact me and we will go from there. So that's part of our meeting in May. And also for our meeting in May, we are going to do a candidate forum. And right now we're in the planning and RSVPing stage for District 10 California State Senate. So we anticipate that there will be several candidates there for that. We're still waiting for those RSVPs, but I think 3 have confirmed. So that's going to be for our May meeting, and I do not have any other announcements. Are there any other announcements in the room or on Zoom? Tara.
I was just telling Carter, our Leadership Sunnyvale graduation will be on the 29th of May, and we'd love to invite, it will be open to the public. We're going to have a big party for the first time since COVID. We had big parties before, and we haven't had before. So that's, we're very excited about it. So mark the 29th, Friday, from 2 to 5. We'll be in the Bay Room at City Hall. And have some fun stuff. Maybe not as fun as yours.
So Angela, I have an announcement as well.
Go ahead.
Can I go ahead?
Yep.
So Sunnyvale Community Services has an auxiliary, and every year we have 2 sales. Our first sale for this year is going to be on, let's see, on May 2nd, and the time is 9:30 to 3:30, and it is going to be in the room all of you are sitting in. It's an all-volunteer organization, and all of the money that we collect goes directly to Sunnyvale Community Services. So if you can attend, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcements on Zoom or in the room going once? Okay. All right. So our first guest speaker tonight is Dr. Gudiel Crosthwaite. Was that pronounced correctly? Do it perfectly, please.
Gudiel Crosthwaite.
Gudiel Crosthwaite. Okay. He is the Sunnyvale School District Superintendent, and he is pretty new in the job, was appointed July 1st, and he comes to us with tons of experience in education, and he was from Lynwood Unified as the Director of School Reform. So I do want to ask what school reform means, but you can maybe include that. The other thing is, you know, I'm a convert. Well, California is my home now, but where I grew up in some of the places and states, I don't recall unified. And people, do you know what unified means here in California? Yeah, everybody's nodding, so I'm slow to this, but that's K, or now TK through 12 is unified. So that's my little trivia, but it seems like everybody knows that. So, and so Dr. Crosthwaite is going to talk to us about some of the challenges he sees facing the district. And then, as we typically do at Livable Sunnyvale, what is something we, the community, can do to help meet some of these challenges? So I will let you take it away. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. And thank you for the opportunity to join you here tonight. Hope all of you over there on the screens are doing well and feeling better. And thank you again for the opportunity. So Gudiel Crosthwaite, Superintendent at Sunnyvale for the last, 8 months or so now. I'm happy to be here. And previously I worked as a superintendent in Lynwood Unified for the last 8 years. And Lynwood is located in LA area. And we had preschool through adult school over there. So that was a unified school district. And maybe that is something that's unique to California as well. So just a little overview of Sunnyvale School District. Here's our promise, is knowing every student by name, strength, and need, ready to excel in high school and beyond, and to lead a life of joy and purpose. Here's our trustees, and I know we have our president, Ms. Peggy Shen Brewster, online as well. And so, we couldn't do the work that we do without their support and their leadership, and as well as courage, because this work is not easy. Sunnyvale School District has about 5,700 kids, preschool through eighth grade. We have 8 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, as well as a preschool. And just to share a little bit more, here are our demographics. So you can see the majority of our students are Latino, then followed by Asian, white, and then one of the things that people may not always recognize, because Sunnyvale is a high resource community, is that we do have a significant number of students who are struggling with basic needs. And then we have almost 30% of our students are identified as English learners. And then currently, these are the numbers as of recent, but these numbers also fluctuate a little bit. We have 52 students with families that are unhoused. We have 800 dedicated employees. And one of the things that I found here in Sunnyvale is that our employees are very dedicated. They're very passionate. They love being here in Sunnyvale and enjoy doing the work that they do. And I want to just tell you a little bit about myself, if it's okay. And I know some of you might have already heard a little bit about me, but and the picture on the left there is my mom and myself. And on the picture on the right, the person in the front with the prominent head, that's me. And some of my siblings. I'm the eldest of 4. My mom came from Mexico to the U.S. when she was 15, and she migrated back and forth. And then I was born here in San Diego area. Um, my mom had a second grade education. She didn't finish second grade, and my dad attended 5th grade but did not finish 5th grade either. So we grew up, with very limited resources. And for me, I was the first in my family to be able to go to high school, just to go to high school, but to be able to graduate from high school and have the opportunity to continue my formal education beyond high school. So I know the transformative power of an education because I'm a testament to it. And where I come from and the families and the neighborhood kids, not all of them were as lucky. And it wasn't because I was smarter or because I had more abilities or more resources. I mean, I got a lot of luck and I got a lot of support along the way. So I am where I am today because of a lot of other people as well. Um, but I really believe in the transformational power of an education, and that's why I do the work that I do. Just to tell you a little bit more about myself, let me keep going here. This is my academic journey. So I moved around a lot as a kid, and I was that kid that got sent to the office a lot. I liked learning, but I did not like school. I never felt like school connected with me, my family, where I grew up. It didn't speak to me, but I did enjoy learning. So I did well in school, but I was also a very angry kid. I wasn't always sure where I was going to eat or what I was going to eat, if anything, that night, or where I was going to sleep sometimes. I did live out of a park for a period of time, lived in many converted garages, and just, with a basic struggle. But again, I was able to graduate from high school. I continued my education at UCLA. When I was at UCLA, I just wanted to make money. I wanted to have a car that worked, food in the fridge, and just a stable home environment. But while I was there, I started tutoring young kids at an elementary school, went back to my former high school, and spoke with students. And it made me realize, like, maybe business and making money really wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to have a purpose. And for me, it's in Spanish called destino, and to try to do something different with my life. And so I went into education, and it was one of the most difficult things I had ever done in my life. And I really wasn't ready to be a teacher. So I went back, got my master's degree at Harvard School of Ed, and then I returned back to the high school that I attended to serve as a teacher. Loved it, felt very good about the work that we were doing, and really connected to my students. But I also recognized that I only had my students 1/6 of the day, and I wanted to have a bigger impact. And then I got tired of people telling me we can't do this because we've always done it this way. The tradition has always been this way. And so I thought, you know what? My goal is to one day become the assistant principal at the high school that I attended so that we can rework the master schedule and truly service the kids the way we needed to. That never happened, by the way, but that started my journey in education administration in 2001. And you see my other like formal education there. But that's, again, me and my mom from my high school graduation. From Workman High School, the middle picture is a couple of colleagues or peers from the School of Ed. And then in 2015, my partner and I went and got my PhD at Claremont in educational leadership. And if you ever want to read a bull-doring dissertation, by all means. But anyway, so I've worked as a middle school and high school teacher, served as an elementary principal, director of school reform in K-8 in Lynwood Unified, started that position in 2010. And then I served as assistant superintendent, deputy superintendent for ed services for about 3.5 years. And then did the last 8 years as a superintendent. And just some of the work that we did in Lynwood Unified. Lynwood was a community that was broken. A lot of people took advantage of it. Graduation rates were in the 60s. We were able to get those up into the 90s. We were able to triple the amount of students who were completing what's known as the A through G, which if you're out of state, those are the required courses in California to be eligible to apply to UC, a Cal State, or a private school. So we did some good work over there, and it was, again, a collective effort. But today I'm here to talk a little bit about Sunnyvale challenges. So I want to touch upon our financial challenges, talk a little bit about the academic coherence and some of the systems that we're looking at. And then also, how do we as an organization continue building trust, improve our communications, and align the work that we're doing across the organization. So when it comes to our financial challenges, when I got here, we had an $11 million structural deficit, which means that we're spending more money than we were receiving in revenue. We were also experiencing, like a lot of other school districts in California, declining enrollment. And I'll talk a little bit more about what each of these things mean. But at the same time, just like you, with rising costs of basic utilities, gas, and other overhead, we're spending more money on some of these basic things. And at the same time, we exhausted these one-time funds that were available, whether to the state or at the federal level. So here you can see over time from 2018-19 school year through this year, the number of students that we've served, right? So the bars are the number of students, and then the line graph is basically our staff. And so why this is important is because we as school systems, we want to make sure that we have the support services and the staff to support our students. However, if your enrollment goes down and your staff stays up, then you have to make those adjustments, right size your staffing in order to continue making an impact in direct services for students. If you don't do that, then over time, you're going to be spending more money on staff and less money or resources are going to direct services for kids. And so since 2018-19, you may not be able to see it at the bottom there, but we had an increase in staffing by almost 20%. And concurrently, we lost about 15% of our students. And so this is one of the challenges that all school districts are experiencing, and you have to do something to stay on top of this as well. And so here's some additional information in terms of those cost pressures, right? Things like insurance, contracted services, cost of living here, health and welfare benefits. And then every year in our systems is our employees automatically get an increase in compensation. So it's just, we have a stepping column. And so that's one of the things that we have to take into account. And at the same time, you can see in these bar graphs, our revenue has decreased. So as costs have gone up, revenue has also declined, so exacerbating our challenges in terms of our finances. So we had a couple years there of over 8% growth, and then this current year, it's dropped significantly to about 2%. And so what does this mean in terms of dollars? It just basically means roughly it's about $6 million. And if you would give the equivalent of approximately 35 teachers. And so this is something that just wouldn't be sustainable over time. And one of the things that people may not know is that if school districts are not able to have balanced budgets and be able to demonstrate that we're able to pay our employees or our expenditures over the next 2.5 years, 3 years, we're required to submit that to the state every year. but the state can take over through the county office. And if the state takes over, they make all the decisions regarding finances and budget. Typically, the superintendent is the first to go, and the board loses the authority to be able to make financial decisions about their own school district and their own community. And it's not easy to do. So that's why it's really important that schools remain fiscally solvent so that we can make and have control over our own decisions. But here you see again, in terms of our multi-year expenditures, you can see in terms of personnel, most of our resources actually go to personnel. And so you can see there at the bottom of that first table in circled in green is over time, roughly you're seeing between 80 to 85% of our revenue going directly to support our staff, our expenditures. And then the changes over years. So again, most of our resources are going to staff. And then again, our expenditures have increased over time as well. Oops. So just a comparison. So what have we done already? So since I got here working in collaboration with our school board and improving communication with our staff and our associations, is we instituted a immediate limited hiring freeze to make sure that we revisited any positions that became vacant and asking ourselves, can we move some people around and whether or not we needed these positions. So by doing that, we were able to reduce 4 management positions this year, about 1.5 total in other positions as well. So we were able to reduce our expenditures this year by about $2 million by as of December of this year. And then we also reduce our other expenditures. But at the same time, what makes it difficult is that you want to maintain programs, quality of services, and direct services to our students, our families, and also recognizing that our staff need professional development. They need to be equipped with the tools, the technology, so that they can be successful and do what they need to do inside classrooms. And so one of the things that you probably heard around the state is that there was a lot of layoffs and a lot of tension. And those are never easy to navigate. And unfortunately, we are not in control of our revenue. We can control a little bit more on the expenditure side, but we don't have any real control of the money that's coming in. And so instead of going through layoffs, what our school board walked us through is a reduction in staffing through what's could be considered like a golden handshake. So an early retirement incentive. And so through that process, we were able to identify these numbers that you can see here on the screen to reduce the number of employees for the following school year and thereby reducing our expenditures, but without having to do layoffs. There's pros and cons to this, like anything else. But by doing it this way, we have more control in terms of the employees that are remain. And at the same time, if you do layoffs and you have to, let's say, reduce 25 positions, you have to notice about 50 employees. And so now you got 50 employees walking around wondering whether or not they're going to have a job next year. And that does something to their psyche, but it also does something to the organization. Is less people are worried and concerned about kids. And of course, it's natural that they're worried about themselves, their families. And so how do you move forward in a humanistic way, staying centered on your employees who have dedicated, their lives, and they make sacrifices to support our students and families. And at the same time, how do you move forward in a way that's respectful and dignified? And so through the early retirement incentive, again, we're able to reduce our staffing, reduce our expenditures, and then have a better control in terms of who will be able to continue moving forward. But this is another way that we were able to reduce staffing. And so as a result now, we have now reduced about $5.5 million this year alone, but we still have another $5.5, $6 million that we need to continue working on moving forward. And so in working in collaboration with our school board, it's developing a multi-year plan to continue addressing our budget deficit so that we're whole and our revenue matches our expenditures, and at the same time keeping our programs focused on students, on staff, and the important work that we need to do. So that's a little bit about our challenges in terms of the finances and what we've done so far. But at the same time is that we recognize that we need to continue being proactive moving forward, reviewing all of our expenditures, reviewing contracts, and then being thoughtful and intentional. So one of the things that we do as a district too is we actually analyze and forecast projected enrollment in terms of students now versus projected enrollment for 5 years from now. And so we hire people to help us out with those efforts, and they look at birth rates and things like that. Going on to the next challenge is academic coherence and student outcomes. There's so much potential here in Sunnyvale. And again, as I started, is we have some incredible, amazing, dedicated staff who are really there to do the best for our kids. And they're working really, really hard. And so at the same time, one of the things that we recognize is that school systems were not designed to support today's kids. They were not designed to support underserved, kids. And so what do we need to do differently within those constraints to truly repurpose public education and support our students in a way that fulfills our mission of knowing every kid by name, strength, and need. And so for us, it's about looking at the systems that we have across our schools, asking ourselves, are we satisfied and are we accepting the academic outcomes that we're seeing? And then asking ourselves, what more can we do or what can we do differently? And then we also recognize that as a school system, we cannot do this work alone. We need partners who believe in our mission, who believe in kids, and who are not afraid to do the hard work. And so for us, that's something that's really important. And so we have to be able to look in the mirror and ask ourselves, what do we need again to do differently? This is just a little, just an outline in terms of like my personal beliefs in terms of what schools should look like and how we can work towards creating systems that are about excellence and accountability, collaboration, making an impact, transformative. We emphasize the lifelong learning and lead by examples as the adults in the system. And of course, equity and acknowledging that we need to provide different supports to students as they need them as well. And so one of the things that we're doing right now, we went through this process, is we partnered with a group called Orenda. And Orenda has come into our systems. They've interviewed our staff. They've analyzed our data, our grades. They've looked at our 130 courses that we offer at the middle schools. And on Monday, April 6th at 6 p.m., we're going to have a special board meeting, and we're going to be sharing out some of the results from this study. And it's an opportunity, again, like I said earlier, is for us to look in the mirror and ask ourselves, what do we need to do differently to better support our students that we have in our current systems? Because we know that we cannot be satisfied with the outcomes that we're seeing right now. We know that we have the potential to do more and do better for our kids. And we also recognize that our teachers are working really hard, but they're working in systems that maybe not have the coherence to be able to support them, to be able to give them opportunities to collaborate with their peers, to share and to engage in conversations and, for example, develop lessons in collaboration. So there's a lot of work ahead of us, but we're excited about the work because we believe that this is going to help recharge and re-energize how we're using our time and our energy to better support what happens inside the classrooms and really create an organization that is student-centered and advocates for students and understands that we can't do this work without, of course, our incredible staff. Our third challenge is this one, is this is something that as school systems, as enrollment continues dropping, is we need to continue improving our communication and do it at a different level so that it's both ways. It's not just one-way communication. But in communities like Sunnyvale, so we got 5,700 kids, the majority of households no longer have kids in school districts, and that's not unique to Sunnyvale. So how do we as an organization continue providing updates to the community about what's going on here? Because if the community is not invested in its youth, then youth will go in a different direction, and it impacts all of us. And so there's this incredible opportunity to continue improving communication, collaboration, and investing in our youth so that it benefits everybody as well. And so one of the things that we recognize is that there's opportunities to improve our alignment in terms of the work that we're doing and how we're doing things, and how do we partner and engage families and staff so that they truly feel heard and that they're informed and that they're sitting at the table with us, engaged in these conversations, engaged about the future of Sunnyvale School District, and that we're really working in partnership. And then the other thing I'll just share with you is that there's always a lot of things to be done in public education. So for us, it's also about staying focused. And so we're working on developing these district priorities that'll keep us grounded in terms of where the work needs to be. And again, I've said this before, but making sure that we're making decisions that are best for kids. Incredible things can happen when we make decisions that are best for kids, and keeping, again, the focus. Just a couple other things here is the constructive partnerships is for us is to be able to go in and ask questions, listen, observe, and support the district decisions once the direction is made. And so for us, it's about going through these processes, but at the same time, it's like once we're ready to move forward, is to be able to move forward, get the work done, make adjustments, listen, and kind of go through the cycle of refining our practices, our systems, so that we can continue becoming a learning organization, so that we're all learning and we're modeling what we're asking our kids to do on a regular basis. And the other thing is here is like this opportunity to be here in front of you this evening, to be able to tell our story and help others in the community and outside of Sunnyvale hear our story, because there are misperceptions about Sunnyvale School District and the work that we're doing or we're not doing or who we serve, et cetera. But the reality is that we can't do this work alone. We need to continue elevating the voices of our students, of our staff, highlighting our successes, and then working to advocate for additional resources, funding. But at the same time, as a school district, we have this incredible opportunity to also influence the conversation about what's happening in Sacramento, and maybe not right now in DC, but in the future in DC as well. And again, build up the confidence here in the community. I want to skip this. So again, this is our promise. We have a lot of work ahead of us. And I do want to just take a moment to acknowledge all the community for their support with our bond measures, overwhelmingly passed. I want to give you just a quick update. Here's the partial tax as well. And these additional revenues are really critical to supporting the efforts that we have in our schools and providing our staff. But if you haven't had a chance to see Ellis recently, here's just a quick picture. But this is a huge investment. You know, they had their open house last night, had a chance to speak with some family members and staff about the work and how hard it was to get this done. But the pride that the families and kids feel by going to Ellis and the investment that was made for generations to come, it's going to go a long way. This is the recent buildings over at Sunnyvale Middle School. We're still in a big project right now that we just demolished one of the wings, and we're going to be working on that for the next couple of years. But again, it's going to be a great investment for the community, for the kids and future generations. And again, this work that continues over at Sunnyvale Middle School, just some overall figures in terms of what we're trying to do, but the wellness centers, like that's a new norm and an expectation. Pushing learning outdoors is understanding that learning doesn't just happen in a classroom or in books. Is like there's so much opportunity for our students to be able to explore and learn outside and understand that learning happens outside the classroom as well. Again, just another picture of rendering of what it could look like, the new updated buildings over at Sunnyvale Middle School. And so with that, I'll conclude here. Thank you, and I'll take any questions as well. I appreciate your time.
So,
Questions in the room or on Zoom?
so I have a question. If somebody wanted to volunteer in the school district, is there an easy place? Is there a place to go to where you can find out what volunteer opportunities are available?
Yeah, I mean, we have very active parent and community members here in Sunnyvale. So through our PTAs, families can also go directly to school sites. They can come to the district office through student services. And so one of the things that we've expanded this year is trying to reach out to our adults in the community, the tech sector, and giving them opportunities and bridges to be able to come into our school systems and being able to just basically bring in more capital into our schools.
Thank you.
Scott?
Yeah, good evening. Thank you very much. That's a great presentation, and you certainly took ownership over a tough situation that you inherited. I drive by the middle school or walk by it almost daily, and the new buildings are just really impressive. There's something to be proud of in the community in your district. I guess my question is, for you showed the 10-year charts. What was going on with leadership that caused it to basically create the situation that you had to inherit, where staff was going up and enrollment was going down for a long period of time?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to what happened in the past, but I can tell you that in many districts, because of the additional funds that were coming down at the federal level around COVID and post-COVID, is that there was this need, right? And maybe some pressure to be able to bring on some additional staff to provide some additional supports, not only for our students, but also for our staff. And as those things happened, we also just had to understand and keep in mind that the funds were going to run out. And so we had to develop a plan moving forward. If we're going to bring in these additional supports, what's the plan to sustain the additional staff and or make the adjustments when the funds run out? And so sometimes what happens is that, let the new guy handle it. So
Thanks.
I have two questions, and so the first one comes from, this is more a sort of education related question, and so maybe you could speak to this with your experience as educator and administrator. But one of the trends that seems to be in the news more and more is the detrimental effect of tech and screens on learning outcomes. And as an educator and administrator, what are your thoughts on this? And is there opportunities to reduce costs by reducing tech that we have in our schools and delivering better outcomes at the same time? Is that possible, or can you speak to that at all as someone with a layman in this?
yeah. So no, it's a great question. It's one that keeps me up at night as well, and I think about frequently, to be honest with you, in terms of like how do you balance, screen time versus like the need to support the academics and innovation, et cetera. And I think that we have to think about, first of all, like what's the intent of having or adults in classrooms using technology, right? Because if it's just being used to entertain kids and keep them quiet, then it's not a good use of time. But if students are able to explore and learn and collaborate and do presentations and develop their other soft skills that are really important as well, then that's different for me. And so I'm not about just giving students more screen time or devices just for the sake of having the devices, but it's also about being intentional about how we're using these in the classroom. And then separately, it's also educating our adults about the dangers of screen time and devices, because we can control to a certain extent what we do inside of our classrooms and our schools, but then our kids are not in schools most of the time. And so how do we work in collaboration and engage in conversations, build up our capacity and understanding in terms of the dangers and pitfalls, and helping adults and young people navigate, these devices or apps that they're using in a way that's responsible, that helps them discern good information from bad information, and be able to make good decisions as well. But I don't really have like the definitive answer to the yes or no for me. It's not so simple for me. I think it's a lot more complicated. And then the other thing that complicates it a little bit more is the reality that not all kids have the same resources. And so how do we become sort of like an equalizer and take that into consideration, where some kids may have other opportunities outside of their home or outside of school, right, at home during the week or on the weekends, to be able to develop these other skills and apply these other opportunities as well.
Thanks for your answer on that. I thought that was really insightful and very balanced as well. And then another sort of question that I had was regarding the enrollment. And so as we've seen, enrollment numbers are going down, and you know, you mentioned some of the challenges that you had to face with staff, especially since that's such a large part of the budget. But one thing that I was sort of wondering, and maybe this is a bit of a teaser for what you're going to be discussing at that special meeting coming up, is can you speak to what the next 5 to 10 years appears to hold? Because we can sort of it seems like, right, we have an idea of what demographics might be looking like, and if you could speak to that and what you anticipate those challenges would be.
Yeah, so this is one of those things where we anticipate that we know that enrollment will continue declining, and that's just the reality. I think that, we've seen these trends happening in other countries like Japan and Italy, and they started over 40 years ago. And here in the U.S., throughout Latin America, and around the world, is as educational opportunities have improved, that gives people more options. And then secondly, access to medical health care. And so people have more control and say as to whether or not they want to have kids and when they want to have kids. So those two things are great things. They're positive things. But for us as a school system, we have to continue monitoring our projected enrollment, our budget, and always stay on top of those things. But that should not prevent us or constrain us from being creative and being innovative in terms of what the future can look like. I think with the onset of certain technology like AI, we know that this is a big disruptor. And so how do we get in front of those things? We know that, for example, computer programming and to a certain extent, some of the engineering jobs are being severely impacted, not only here in the Silicon Valley, but in other areas as well. So then what's our role as educators as we see these trends happening, and what can we do now to prepare our kids for jobs that we don't even know what that landscape will look like in 20, 30 years. So if you think about the kindergarten students that are coming in 25, 26, and then you just, add the 13 plus years that they're going to be in our system, we're now looking in 2040. So I don't know what 2040 will look like when they're off in college or entering the workforce, but I want to make sure that whatever that future is, that we have provided them a great foundation so that they can be successful in whatever they choose to do.
Thank you.
So thank you for your presentation, and I have a couple questions as well. So first, I noticed on your slides with Sunnyvale Middle School that you touted the all-electric construction, and I want to applaud that.
Yeah.
And you've talked about, the need to decrease the district's long-term structural deficit. And my understanding is that electrical systems, as opposed to fossil gas, tend to have lower operating costs. So I'm curious if the district is looking at electrifying, the existing building stock, and that would, hopefully help with the deficit, but also decrease your greenhouse gas emissions as well.
Yeah, so it's a great question. It's one of those things that we have to constantly look for, like the grants, but also other funding opportunities to be able to address this. But I think for our school board too, in the community, it's not even just about a cost savings measure. It's about doing the right thing and leading by example for future generations. We have our young people who are incredibly dedicated and aware of the importance of climate change and what's happening in their world, and they want to do something different. So, and I can't speak for my board, but this is work that they started before I got here, and but again, it's part of their vision in terms of how do we lead by example in our community. And yes, it's a cost saving measure, but at the same time it's also the right thing to do.
Thank you for that. And my second question is slightly longer term. So Sunnyvale in Moffett Park has upzoned considerably and is going to be adding a lot of housing up there. And how do you see that impacting the district, even if enrollment is declining in other parts of the city, what kinds of changes might the district need to contemplate in order to address that?
Yeah, so I'm having conversations with the city manager as well about this and just planning ahead because this is a big project moving forward. And so we're going to need additional school facilities in that area to accommodate families with the anticipation that we're going to have more kids. And Sunnyvale is a pretty wide area. And one of our challenges that I didn't speak to tonight is transportation. Is if you're trying to get from one part of Sunnyvale to the other part, especially if you have two kids, one at the elementary or middle school and then one at the high school, that's a pretty long trek in the mornings with traffic. And so for us, it's also taking that into consideration. But we have to continue working in collaboration with the city for a suitable school site and then start planning ahead as that moves forward as well, because we will need to provide those supports in those areas as well.
So I think Agnes, then Tim.
So I have two questions. One has to do with ICE. Has ICE made its presence known in the district? And if not, what will be done when they do or if they do? And the other question is, you had talked about a number of unhoused families within the district. What is being done to assist them?
So in terms of ICE, have they made a presence? Not like they have in other cities, but yes, we've had families who have been directly impacted and affected by ICE and their tactics. What we've done is, our school board has asked us from the very beginning to get ahead of this and prepare and, address our communication, protocols, trainings. So since last summer, we've been working on this and we've updated our protocols numerous times. One of the things that they also did is that as new legislation was working its way through Sacramento, they didn't wait until November or until these bills were approved and enacted on. They took proactive action and took language from those bills as they were going through the process to update our protocols and our policies to protect our staff, to protect our students. And then part of that work also meant that we had to ask ourselves, what more can we do? And engaging in conversations with families, but with other organizations like the IPEN network. And so a simple thing was the county last year had provided direction that if ICE shows up at the school sites, the principal or the front office staff would direct them and have them wait and, basically accommodate them. And so one of the things that we did in Sunnyvale is we said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to redirect them to the superintendent's office, and only the superintendent has the authorization to interact with ICE regarding anything that they may need, whether it's a judicial warrant or anything else. And that by doing that, it takes the responsibility off the school sites. It redirects them over back to the district so that their presence is not at the school sites. But just little things like that can go a long way. But the other thing that was really important for us in Sunnyvale is to use our position and our voice to speak out against these things, to reassure our families that we were not going to allow any of these things to happen at our school sites, and to try to do our best to reassure families that our schools were safe. But the other thing is, like I've said before, we can't do this work alone. So we actually partnered with our teachers union, our classified union, and other organizations to develop a list of employee volunteers who were willing to work in collaboration with the community to set up lines, for example, so that if there was an increase in ICE activity, that we would have an opportunity to escort families and kids and notify the community of any ICE presence in the area. So those are just some of the things, and also just sharing with other school districts what we've learned from what's happened in other parts of the country, and continue learning and listening and advocating as well at the local level as well as in Sacramento.
The other question I had was, what about our unhoused families? How are we helping them?
Yeah, this is one of those things where there's a lot more that we can do. So we are in collaboration with our center and working with Dana over there. I had a chance to go tour. I know our trustees are very involved, and I know one of them volunteers there on a regular basis. Um, but things like that we may not publicize is reaching out personally to families, supporting them with transportation, because that is a challenge. Thinking about some of the basic necessities that they may have, and so we've organized food distributions for not only our unhoused families but our other vulnerable families as well. And thinking about when it comes to clothing, when it comes to basic food, basic access to, just showering, helping them secure housing or connecting them with different organizations that can provide them support, because it is a real challenge here, and it's not something that people are always coming forward with. And so the other thing that we've worked on is training our staff to ask questions and to do these in a dignified way so that we can help identify families in need and be able to provide the additional supports and connect them to with additional resources as well. And one of the things that we're doing right now is we the center got a small grant to provide additional supports with after school tutoring and after school supports. And if you've never gone to the center, they don't have a playground. It's what is it called? The North?
Oh, the North County.
Yes, thank you. Yes, yes, but they don't have a playground. They don't have space, and so trying to figure out how we can work in collaboration to increase services and support to the families and the students there. So Think Together is one of our after school partners. We'll begin working this spring break. So during the spring break, we're going to actually have tutors there and provide some additional support that will continue after spring break with after school as well, because some of our families may not be able to stay after school and benefit from the after school programs and other resources and enrichment activities that we have.
Tim?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, my name's Tim Wee. I do a lot in the transportation space. So you mentioned transportation a lot. And I'm particularly interested in seeing that all of our schools, actually across all of California, but we start in Sunnyvale, teach students how to bicycle safely. And what do you think of actually including bicycle education as a part of PE in the Sunnyvale School District?
Yeah, I'm not one to say no to things. So I think it can be done. I think it has to be done in a thoughtful way. And I know we've had some conversations with the city about that as well, in terms of the bike lanes, but also the safety, and encouraging more of our families to sign up for, because there's these classes, right, where they can participate and be certified. So yeah, something that's definitely worth exploring.
Yeah, there are actually a lot of grants available to provide schools with a complete fleet of bikes, and the PE teacher gets to be educated, and they have all the curriculum. There's some schools in Woodside and some in San Jose that have taken advantage of that, and I'd like to see it show up in Sunnyvale. Um, Something else about schools, putting. Do you know what a traffic garden is?
Traffic Garden, tell me more.
Yes. Have you heard of what a traffic garden is?
No.
So it's a play space for kids that is where they can, practice their traffic skills. And every school in Europe has one. And it can be as simple as just in the paved play area, you just paint out little roads with stop signs and yield signs and other things. Or it can be more elaborate. In Knoxville, Tennessee, I think, or someplace in Kentucky or Tennessee, they've got a really elaborate one. They've got a little town. The city actually made it. So it's a town park that actually is a little mini city, but kids are just on tricycles and bicycles operating as little mini vehicles where there's no cars, no real cars at least. They've got all these kids wandering around. And that's a more elaborate traffic garden. But even have a simple, just painted out traffic garden. Lakewood has a little bit of a traffic garden, kind of, in the kindergarten area. They've got a little track that they go tricycles around. They could advance a little bit more than that. All the schools in Monterey County now have traffic gardens through a grant, so the kids can learn how to be safe with traffic. But getting a part of PE where they can actually learn how to bike, if they know how to bike, and practice bike safety skills in elementary and middle school is awesome. I teach and help out the Sunnyvale Safe Routes to School program and Cupertino Safe Routes to School program with a middle school bicycle skills class, which is an extracurricular summer-based class where we teach parents and kids. But we would really like to see this what I'm teaching outside of school just built into the PE curriculum in all of schools in California.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. So I'm going to put my email on there in the chat so I can get some more information from you, Tim. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Hi, my name is Deanna Gonzalez, and I am an alum of the Sunnyvale School District. I went to San Miguel, which is 4 blocks from my house, and I went to what used to be called Madrone, but now it's Columbia. And I went to Sunnyvale High School and graduated from there. So I'm a product of the Sunnyvale Fremont Union High school districts. I am also newly appointed or chaired the San Miguel Neighborhood Association. So I need to meet some folks at San Miguel. And I would love to further conversation with you if that's possible. Just to understand the neighborhood that we reside in, I can use my eyes, and I've lived there pretty much all my life. My parents bought the home in 1954, brand new. So we're very familiar with the neighborhood, and what concerns me most is the things that you identified in your presentation very, very well. And that is that 51%, I think you said, of the family homes or people in Sunnyvale do not have children. And that might be because of the industries that we have that are attracting, families without children, or they're just newly brought to this area for tech jobs. I worked for 35 years at San Jose State University, so I'm very familiar with enrollment. I was the director of undergraduate admissions, and so I understand the cliff, and I think we're free falling now into it. So I just wonder if the state is doing. I try to keep up, but in a retirement life, you kind of have to be away from it. I wonder at this point, is there like sirens going off in Sacramento about that enrollment? Because I know at the state level, through the CSU, there was always sirens about enrollment, and we fell very short of our projections, starting in 2019, going through the COVID years. I know it's strong at certain campuses, and I think it's, probably that way in certain areas of Sunnyvale as well. Enrollment could be, but what do you see? I mean, what do you hear?
Yeah, so I've actually been involved in some of those conversations about enrollment and how schools are funded here in California. And, up until COVID, California, one of the largest economies in the world, was still in the bottom 10 in per pupil spending for public education in the country, which is shameful. So there's something that needs to be done aside from enrollment to support public education, and public education has been under attack for a long time. And it is something that's challenged in terms of not everybody believes that all kids should have a great public education, which is unfortunate. But the other thing with public education, what's going on in Sacramento, is this year you've seen a lot of activity in terms of negotiations and potential strikes and leading up to strikes. And you still, San Francisco just went through this. Twin Rivers, you got LUSD now coming up. And so there's a lot of attention being drawn to this. I don't necessarily agree with some of the tactics, but the need to re-engage and revisit the conversation about how we're funding public education is critical. And it's long overdue, and it needs to happen. And we really need to continue investing in public education. But as enrollment goes down and the revenue continues in going up in, let's say, in California, then where do those additional funds go to? And so for us, it's about who do we want to be in the future as a state, And is public education really a priority for us as well? For Sunnyvale, we're a basic A district. For other districts, as their enrollment goes down, it also impacts their revenue, and so even attendance. And so attendance is still pretty awful across the country post COVID. But there are conversations happening in Sacramento today about going back to funding schools on the number of students enrolled and not the average daily attendance, or what's known as ADA, because our overhead will remain the same. But then you see some drawbacks to that, because our attendance in California is a lot stronger than it is in other states. And you have other, like our attendance is in the 90s, and that's more typical here in California. But you have states where attendance is between 60 to 80%. And if a kid doesn't come to school, there's no urgency to go and make sure that they're coming to school, because they're going to get the money anyway. And then you think about who doesn't come to school and the challenges that they're having. And it's unfortunate, but there's not this need for school districts to go out and search for the kids too. So it's complex, but it's not impossible, and we need to just prioritize it and continue supporting those efforts.
Hi, I'll be brief because I know you have another speaker yet this evening. I'm Don Weed, and I worked for Santa Clara County Planning for 34 years. I give presentations to the Leadership Sunnyvale class about the future of the county at large. I just want to make the observation there are two different conflicting trends with regard to projecting future enrollment. This is what the Department of Finance in California is currently projecting will happen countywide in Santa Clara County. That I'll pass this around. The bottom shows that over this decade, the current decade, from 2020 to 2030, we will be losing 72,000 young people in this county. That's countywide. We will be losing 47,000 people in the working age group 18 through 64. We will be adding 120,000 seniors. That, in general, is sort of our future. Forget the numbers exactly, they may vary, but those are the trends. However, let me pass that around. The one other thing to keep in mind is we just went through a round of housing element updates where all the cities were required to update their general plans to accommodate more housing. Santa Clara County overall, all the jurisdictions together, were given 130,000 housing units to plan for, to be built between now and 2031. Not likely to happen, but the door is open for that to happen. So I just want to sort of push back a little bit against the declining enrollment scenario. That certainly is the default, but pushing in the other direction is the housing element update, of which Sunnyvale was assigned, I think, 12,000 units that they just planned for in their last round. If economic factors would dictate when and where that happens, perhaps, but it's the other side of the coin. Makes your job even harder, which is already difficult enough.
Yeah, but you know what? I'd rather deal with that challenge of having more kids and trying to figure those things out than what we're dealing with right now. And so thank you for bringing that up too, because it's the reality, right? Yeah.
Said, yes, we do have another speaker. So at Livable Sunnyvale, it's always a challenge. And the other speaker has a question, so it even gets even more trickier. But it's always a challenge what topic is going to draw a lot of questions, and how we, proceed with that when the conversation is just engaging. So, Kristel, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. So my two kids went through the Sunnyvale School District and Fremont Union High School. They're now in college and beyond. And I served on PTA and school site councils, and every so often I would see the charts and the graphs of the achievement gap. And it was always shocking every time I saw it. And it seemed like it wasn't getting better, it wasn't getting worse, it was just always there. And I just wanted to know your perspective. I know it's a hugely complicated problem, but what kinds of things actually work to narrow that gap? Is it more funding for the district? Is it more income for the families? Because that is a factor, the resources that are available to students. Just wanted your opinion on that.
I mean, if we can give everybody more money, that might be one quick, easy fix, right? But the reality is that it's far more complex. And I think that we all know the importance of high expectations. And when you ask parents, what do you want for your child? Parents will always tell you they want the best for their child. They want opportunities for their child. And when we ask adults, do you believe in kids? Does that mirror what parents believe in, right? Our parents are saying us the very best from their households. And we have an opportunity and this incredible responsibility to embrace our young people and believe in them and give them hope for future opportunities. Unfortunately, our systems that we've inherited are not as optimistic and unbiased as we want them to we want to believe. Our systems are inherently biased and set up to support certain kids. And if you're low income, if you're a kid of color, if you have an IEP, the reality is that the system pushes you down and doesn't give you the same opportunities. And I shared a little bit of my story. I mean, my three siblings did not graduate from high school, but that was not unusual. In my block, there weren't very many of us who graduated from high school. So one of the biggest differences in terms of those addressing the opportunity gap is to truly give kids an opportunity, is open up the doors and give them a chance. But unfortunately, we are shutting down the doors and closing the opportunities before even kids even step on school grounds. I'll share a quick story about the work that we did collectively in Lynwood. Lynwood had, I think it was like 12 to 15% of students who were taking AP classes. And in order to get an AP class, you had to have the gifted label. You had to have a teacher recommendation, a parent recommendation. You had to have a test score. And only then could you get into the AP courses. So then we come in and we say, we're going to open up AP, is give an opportunity for the kids who want to take AP classes. And I'll tell you, I was in an auditorium where people were yelling at me. I had microphones in my face from the media, and people were saying things like, I don't want those kids with my kids. And this is a community that's 99% Black and brown. And I was hearing things like, well, if you let those kids into my course, it's going to affect my passing rate. And this is where our values and our beliefs, do they line up with our systems and our behaviors? And so what I'll tell you is that we were threatened, if you do that, we're going to take our kids somewhere else. And some people did. But what also happened is this: we opened up AP courses to any kid. You didn't need a test score, you didn't need a grade, you didn't need a recommendation. And we doubled the amount of kids taking AP courses, tripled the amount of kids taking AP exams. And guess what happened to the test scores? They actually went up. The kids that didn't have those labels, they went in and they worked harder to try to prove themselves, right? And Lynwood was recognized at the national level for opening up AP access for kids, and was recognized in DC. But that's hard work, and it's hard work. And if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. But on Monday, April 6th, one of the things that we're going to be sharing is about just some of the systems that our staff have inherited that to this day in 2026 deny certain kids access to certain courses because of their background. And nobody wants to hear that. And I'm not blaming anyone, but now that we're aware of this, what will we do as a community? Are we going to rally behind and support this? Or will people stand up and say, I don't want those kids with my kids? And so that's what it is about for me. It's about access.
Just quickly, we'll end with Paulina and Marie. I'm sorry, but we're running out of time.
I'm going to be super quickly. Hi everyone. So I just, I wanted to, add something else about how the district school helps and houses students. So we work in partnership, and I think it's a great partnership that we have with the district school and also with Fremont Unified High School. So I work in partnership with the outreach coordinators. So they're the point of contacts. when they have a family that is unhoused, or not just only unhoused, but they need another services, so they refer those families to us. They do it through me, so I connect the families with the caseworkers. So the caseworkers, they start the process. Now we have one person that is just focuses that just focus on helping families at school. And also we do outreach. So we have tables like yesterday at Ellie's, we have a table with one of the community leaders. So that's another way that we spread the information about our programs and services with the families here in the district. And another way that we do is through the community leader program. So most of my community leaders, they are parents of many students here in the district, and also they are part of the different groups, and some of them they work for the district school district. So they also refer some of the parents, they refer to SES. So that's the way that we work in partnership.
Thank you, Paulina.
Mhm.
And I'll add that it can be stronger. So Gudiel, we have to do more together. So I think it's really important to have very warm handoffs. I know that the social workers at the schools are covering so much of what the needs are for the students, but we're here as well. I will also say that for the first time in over a decade, maybe in my history at SCS of 16 years, we're seeing a shrinkage in the number of students that we believe will be coming to us for back to school needs. The first time in 16 years. I've never seen that forecast before. We're still trying to count the chickens there, but the need is deeper per capita. So we have to first of all make sure that any child who may not be connected to us gets connected, and we'll pull out all the stops. I know Gudiel, with your leadership, we can be very innovative of how we do this, how we identify the children and their families, how we make it easy for them to get the resources that they deserve and that they're eligible for in this crazy time, because families are leaving the area and families are also afraid to come out, period. And everything you said. So thank you. Blessing to have you here. Really looking forward to working even closer with you.
So thank you very much. It was a very robust and engaging and interesting. There was so many things that I've written down that I need to go think about or maybe ask you. Are you open for email questions or,
Yes, of course. And
Okay.
thank you again, everyone. I'll put my email and contact information in the chat as well. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you.
All right, so it falls to me to introduce our second speaker for this evening. So Kristel Wickham has been active in environmental causes in Sunnyvale for quite a long time. She served 2 terms on Sunnyvale Sustainability Commission, including a number of years chairing that. She also was on the city's Climate Action Plan 2.0 Advisory Committee, shaping the city's long-term climate policy in the form of the Climate Action Playbook. Now she is serving on the County Sustainability Commission, and she's here to tell us about that. Take it away, Kristel.
All right, thank you. I'm wondering if we need a stretch break. Does anybody need to stand up? I need to stand up just for 30 seconds. While we're figuring it out, I'll just start talking. All right, I'm Kristel Wickham, and tonight you get 2 topics for 1 speaker. Thank you, Doug, for the introduction. So I do currently serve as the Sustainability Commission for the county, the vice chair. And our own Bruce Payton is the chair. So Sunnyvale represents well on the 11-member commission. I also serve as vice chair for Sunnyvale's Charter Review Committee, which met throughout 2025 under the leadership of former council member and chair Gustav Larsson. And we concluded our work with a final report, which was received by council on February 3rd. So as you'll see, what kind of unifies these topics is that our local governance, advisory boards, commissions, and committees made up of appointed volunteers does shape some real outcomes, and there are opportunities for community members to influence those outcomes. So besides giving an overview and summarizing the work of these 2 groups, I'll suggest actions that you can take to learn more and engage. I'll try to cover these in about 30 minutes. It's like 2 separate presentations, and then we could do Q&A afterwards. So kind of keep track of your questions on each section. Okay, next slide. I'm having technical difficulty there. Okay. All right, so first the Santa Clara County Sustainability Commission. So amazingly, there are about 90 county level boards and commissions, something for everyone. So most like the Sustainability Commission are advisory bodies to the Board of Supervisors. So we don't make the decisions, but rather influence them upstream. So this is a relatively new commission. It was established in 2021, though it has only been meeting since the beginning of 2024. As mentioned, there's 11 members, which include 2 seats that are designated for youth, age 14 to 22. So that is pretty unusual to have that age group represented, and especially important for the Sustainability Commission. So we do meet 6 times per year in person. It's well supported. The whole commission is well supported by staff from the Office of Sustainability and Resilience. And I joined the commission not with the first cohort, but in late 2024. And as with service on many boards and commissions, it's not glamorous, but we do bring community and technical perspectives into county policy conversations. We are bound by the Brown Act, and there is opportunity for public comment at every meeting. I have seen some challenges in my relatively short time on the commission. There's 3 seats, including both youth seats that have been open for at least 6 months. There's been some staff turnover with 2 key positions moving to the San Mateo Office of Sustainability. Of course, federal funding cuts have affected all county operations, and including the Office of Sustainability. So there's been challenges there. And then, of course, the county is a really large, complex bureaucracy, and it can be a bit opaque. Next slide. All right, so things that we have worked on so far. A lot of our work is reviewing and shaping major plans before they go to the Board of Supervisors. And you can see a number of those there. But some of our impactful actions have come from public input and commissioner advocacy. So one example is our recommendation to restrict new artificial turf on county-owned property. A staff-endorsed ordinance went to the full Board of Supervisors for a vote in January 2025. It did fail to pass and only had 2 supervisors out of the 5 voting for it. However, the public discussion of the harms of artificial turf and the staff's putting forward an ordinance were valuable steps that can be built upon for future attempts. And then our recommendation to the board to update the investment policy has passed one key committee, and that was in November, and it's expected to go through the Finance and Government Operations Committee before a full board vote this year. So in part, based on the Sustainability Commission's discussion and public pressure, in August 2025, the county did not renew $15 million in Chevron bonds that matured. Those bonds were the only remaining fossil fuel investments of the county. So a formal update to the policy, the investment policy, would ensure that no future fossil fuel investments would be made. All right, next slide. All right, so there's a lot of areas that we plan to focus on in the coming year. So this is kind of highlights from our work plan. There's just a note that the ad hoc committees, the second bullet there, that we're considering is a new idea, and really the commission is just still learning how we can be most impactful. And we felt like this would be one of those ways. But there's other things like reviewing the adaptation plan for the whole, the region. And the county is very aware that they also need to prepare for and talk about these air district rules that are coming that will reduce nitrogen oxide emissions from furnaces and water heaters. And then outreach is another area that we feel like the board or the commission can play a role. Next slide. So how does this commission matter for Sunnyvale? Santa Clara County has 15 incorporated cities that make up about 95% of the total 1.9 million county residents. The remaining 5% lives in unincorporated areas of the county, which also covers about 70% of the land area. For sustainability and climate action, each of those 15 cities, including Sunnyvale, usually creates its own climate action plan, active transportation plan, and other plans, right? The county then fills in the gaps with plans that cover unincorporated areas that are not under any city's jurisdiction. But the impact goes in both directions. So some things that cities do get adopted later by the county for those unincorporated areas. New building reach codes were an example of this, where many of the cities passed the codes first, and then later the county adopted a similar new building electrification reach codes. So in other ways, the county provides leadership and services for all 15 cities with respect to sustainability. So examples include climate risk assessment and regional climate and resilience planning. Many county services and programs are supportive of Sunnyvale's climate and sustainability goals, and the cities and county often collaborate. Next slide. All right, so this is not for really me to talk about more, it's more for information, like if you want to explore and learn more about the whole sustainability ecosystem in the county. There's a lot of plans, and they're all really long and complicated. But each one of these is a link, and so I invite you to learn more, and I'll especially call out a few of them. The data dashboard is really cool. You know, Sunnyvale has a scoreboard. This is essentially the scoreboard for the county. And there's a survey going on right now to help inform the comprehensive climate action plan. And that is going to cover actually both Santa Clara and San Benito counties. So there's a survey going. I invite you to take that. And just read up on any of the areas that are particularly interesting to you. Next slide. All right, so there's many entry points, and I will use this opportunity to let you know a few of them. Entry points to engage and utilize the county sustainability services. So I kind of split things up into like easy ways to take action, medium, and more advanced ways on the next slide. So I'll highlight a couple of the easy ones. So sign up for the county emergency alerts if you haven't. So there's, you get information on your phone if there's an earthquake, a tsunami, all kinds of interest. It doesn't happen often, but it's important to to get onto that alert system. You can get your voter information guide paperless. So you'll get an email when it comes instead of paper in the mail, and save some trees. And let's see, there's a National River Cleanup Day on May 16th and opportunities to volunteer there. It's more fun than you think picking up trash for a day, especially if you bring a friend. Then for medium effort, get involved in making comments or writing to supervisors about sustainability topics. Engage with groups that are doing that, and encourage Sunnyvale to utilize, for example, model codes that were developed by the county. Next slide. And then for more advanced commitment, you can apply to serve on a board, one of those 90 boards. So there's some information there about the boards and commissions, finding current vacancies, and applying. And I'll just note that VTA and Valley Water are also large parts of sustainability in the county, but they're separate from the county government and have their own citizen commissions. So there's a couple of examples there. You know, they have a bicycle and pedestrian advisory committee, and Valley Water has a youth commission. So yes, plenty of opportunities to engage if you are looking for that. So that's the end of the county level portion. And now we can zoom into Sunnyvale and its charter, which sets the framework for how decisions get made. Next slide. And I see online we have Tim Wee, who is an esteemed member of the Charter Review Committee with me. And so when it comes time for questions, I know he'll be able to add some nuance and may want to chime in with answers as well. Okay, was there one, I think one back? Yes, thank you. All right, so the city's charter dates from 1949, and it's the city's constitution, defines the governance structure. I'm just gonna read the preamble just to give you a feel for what's inside this book here. Every member of the review committee got one of these, and we got to mark it up and write in it and see what we wanted to change. All right, the preamble of this document says, "We, the people of the city of Sunnyvale, state of California, do ordain and establish this charter as the organic law of said city under the Constitution of said state." So you can see that, or you can hear that the style sounds a bit formal and legal, and it is. And just about charters in general, there's about only 25% of California cities operate with a charter. Other cities are called general law cities. But basically all the larger cities have a charter that gets changed through elections. Next slide. Okay, so as I mentioned, we all got copies. There's 11 of us on the board or on the Charter Review Committee. And the document might seem kind of static, but amendments have been approved by voters 20 times since that 1949 date. And typically at kind of a cadence of 2 to 6 years. And Sunnyvale's current charter was last amended in 2020, but it's been more than 15 years since a full review was done. Well, now 0 years because the Charter Review Committee has finished its work, so a full review has been done just recently. All right, so council will often place items on the ballot without convening a Charter Review Committee, but in 2024 determined it was time to do because it had been 15 years since the last one. And there's some really great reasons to update the charter. As an example, since the last time we had a full review, the city moved to district elections and a directly elected mayor. There have also been changes to state law. So the council had already decided to form a charter review committee and identified multiple topics in a colleague's memorandum. And 3 of those items from the memorandum were put to voters in 2024 on Measure F. However, it failed to get a majority. And so council went ahead and selected the 11 members to serve on the Charter Review Committee in December 2024. So we included those 3 items that had failed in our deliberations, plus the other items that were on their colleagues' memorandum. Next. All right, so what did we do? There's a image there of boring commissions. Although this one has a public commenter. That's why I particularly selected that one. So what did we do? We started out really broad, and we first reviewed the entire charter. And we assembled 23 potential areas for amendment. So those included our own ideas, plus the 9 that council had suggested, and 2 that staff had proposed. And we then narrowed these based on impact and feasibility. We narrowed them down to 6 that were discussed at a joint meeting with council in June 25. And then council then guided us to continue work on 5 of those 6 topics. Next slide. Okay, so the most recent thing that has happened is that in February, we held a joint meeting with council where they accepted our final report and thanked the committee members and the staff who worked on it. And they came away with 4 potential charter amendments that were selected as priorities. The council also directed staff to conduct community polling and return with results in May. So the 4 recommendations that are moving forward with polling and further evaluation are city council and mayor salaries, how council vacancies are filled, the city manager's authority limit for legal claims, and contracting methods for major capital projects. And on the following slides, I'll go into each one. I know you're all just at the edge of your seat. Okay. All right, this one, council and mayor compensation, is maybe one of the more controversial ones, right? Because it involves money and salaries and what we pay our council members. But for this, the committee did recommend a charter amendment to increase city council member salaries to $6,000 per month for council members and to $9,000 per month for the mayor's salary. So the existing annual increase, which is based on the consumer price index, would be maintained in the proposal. So the committee further recommended that professional polling be done prior to placing a measure on the ballot and if warranted, to decrease the proposed salary amounts. So the professional polling is being done now, and we'll hear results in May. But the city did a kind of non-scientific community survey in October, and there was significant support for increasing council member salaries. You can see there the 58.7% of those polled said that the council member pay is too low and should be increased. This wasn't like how much it should be increased, but just the baseline, it should be increased. All right, and so the reasons why, and of course, this was a robust discussion at the Charter Review Committee, and but basically the current compensation really hasn't kept pace with the workload or the cost of living here in our heart of Silicon Valley. And ultimately, the committee felt that a salary reset is needed to enable a wider set of the population to have the financial ability to serve as a council member. This wouldn't take effect until 2027, so after the next election. And just as a comparison, in 2025, the current salaries after the automatic increases that happen every year, the council salary is about $3,100 and the mayoral salary is about $4,100. So the recommendation is a very significant jump from the existing. And then also, just as a background, the actual annual increases since 1992 have averaged 2.2% per year. So meanwhile, average full-time wages in Sunnyvale during that same time period have increased roughly 4.4% annually, so twice the rate that council salaries have increased. So that's one reason why we're thinking we need to have a level up reset and then continue the consumer price index inflation increases per year. Okay, next slide. All right, so the big idea here, I think there's one back, or one ahead. Okay, no problem. Number 14. Yeah, so this one is about filling council vacancies. So from time to time, things happen. You know, a council member resigns or for one reason or another, there is a vacancy on the council. And the big idea here is fewer elections, but better elections. So when there is a council vacancy, it could be filled by election or by appointment, and that is up to council to decide how they're going to fill it. But when there is an appointment, the review committee considered 3 issues. So one, if a vacancy is filled by appointment, at what election should a successor for the position be elected? And second, how many council members may serve by appointment at any one time? And third, whether the duration of appointments should be limited. So this is a great example of the kind of change that we focused on. And we really had many analytical discussions, but they balanced cost, democracy, and efficiency. So the recommendation is that council appointments to fill vacancies would last only until the next general municipal election in November of even-numbered years. So, and that's different from what the current charter designates as the next statewide election, which could be a primary or other special election that doesn't happen in November, or could even be an off year if it's a special election. Okay, so the recommendation prioritizes higher turnout elections, which is the general election, and the committee felt that that would lead to decisions that better reflect the community. Then on the other two issues, the committee recommended no change, meaning there would still be a maximum of 2 appointed council members at one time, and there would be no limit to the duration of an appointment prior to the next election. Okay, next slide. Okay, this one is about, this is one of the ones that the staff had recommended that we study. And so currently the state law caps the city manager's authority to settle legal claims against the city at $50,000 unless otherwise stated in the charter. And that $50,000 threshold has been in effect since at least 1989 and hasn't been adjusted for inflation. So whenever a larger claim arises, the council must meet in closed session to approve the amount. And this can result in delays and less flexibility. So the review committee recommended a ballot measure to allow for a larger amount. As a comparison, currently our city municipal code designates contract approvals and spending authority to the city manager up to $250,000 or 5x the current legal claims limit. And the ultimate dollar amount, it's recommended by the committee that the ultimate dollar amount would not be listed in the charter, but rather set by ordinance so that it could be more easily adjusted when needed. So I know that's a lot and it's complicated, but the basic reasons for doing this are operational efficiency, less council time in closed sessions, faster settlements, and just having that that dollar value adjusted for inflation. Next slide. All right, this one is also a bit heavy and complicated, but and it was also one of the staff recommendations that we study. So currently, the city has a design, bid, build process for large public works projects and new buildings and infrastructure. So in that kind of process, the city first contracts with architects and engineers to complete the design portion of the work, then advertises the completed design for construction bids, and finally awards a construction contract to the lowest responsible bidder. All right, so while this method provides a well-established framework, it's used by cities all over the state, it does separate the design and construction phases, which can lead to gaps, change orders, cost overruns, and extended project timelines. So state law has changed in intervening time to allow a design build process. So instead of design bid build, it's design build. And that's where the design and construction phases are bundled into one single contract. So a single company is responsible for both the design and the construction, which creates a unified project team from the beginning. And also in the proposed amendment, the city would select a design build team through a qualifications-based competitive process known as best value rather than solely lowest price. So that is another key point, which is lowest bid versus best value, and gives the city higher leverage and better outcomes, we believe, by using best value. So this is also widely used in other cities that have done charter amendments to allow this, and also especially by school districts that are building new school infrastructure. Okay, next slide. All right, and there was one item that was crossed out, and that was council meeting scheduling. So council did ask us to study this. So we explored a change that would require 24 meetings per year instead of 2 meetings per month. Sounds very, very similar, but this would have allowed larger breaks during the summer where council could could take some time off from their busy dockets. All right, so this was one of the 3 items that were bundled in Measure F in 2024. And remember, the one that failed. And the committee noted that the operational load of council is more restrictive than the current flexibility of scheduling meetings to ensure that 2 meetings are held per month as required in the charter. And it's a little complicated. But with careful planning, the council can gain a multiple week break without an actual amendment. So basically, we felt it was first unnecessary, and second, it had already failed as part of Measure F, and really the council load is the limiting factor. Okay, we're almost to the end. This is where we learn about how we can engage as citizens, and there's something coming up, May 5th. So that is a decision point where the council will hear the results of the professional polling, and they will be selecting which items are going to go onto the ballot. So there's opportunity to provide feedback to the council members, either individually, via email, or by speaking at the public hearing. And again, that's May 5th when that decision gets made. And then once the ballot measures are selected, it would be great to have Livable Sunnyvale members help educate voters. As you've heard, some of this is a bit worrying and hard to understand. And when it shows up on the ballot, if you don't understand it, often the choice is no, right? So because some of these are a bit complex, and because the Charter Review Committee does believe that these are in the benefit of the city and that can save time and money and operational efficiency, it is important to be able to educate voters and get the word out about some of these things. All right, and then the last engagement opportunity is November 3rd. Everyone should vote. Okay. All right, so these might seem like small structural changes, but they do shape how decisions get made and improve operational efficiency into the future. And right now there is a window to influence the outcomes. All right, that is it. I'll take some questions if there are any. Everyone, a deep breath. Move around.
All right, I'll go first. My question is sort of related to the city manager settlement authority. And I was curious, was there a specific reason why 150,000 was chosen as opposed to 250,000 for contracts that already exist, and what the rationale behind that was? If you could speak to that.
Okay, this is with respect to settling of legal claims, not contracts.
Right.
Yeah.
But you mentioned that the contract's amount was set to 250,000 as opposed to the settlement authority as at 150,000. And I was curious why we needed to have that distinction.
Right. We don't necessarily, and ultimately council may decide to put on the ballot, that the settlement authority should match the contracting authority. I think staff would love that outcome. And but we did, as the Charter Review Committee, when we did research, we looked at a bunch of other cities and what had they done. So obviously cities that did charter amendments to change the $50,000 small number, we saw that most of the ones that we could find where there actually was a number, because many of them did put it into an ordinance, so it wasn't directly in the charter. It was around 100,000 to 150,000. So we thought, well, maybe that's a good starting point, what other cities have done. But we did note that, yeah, up to 250 is probably reasonable as well. But yeah, ultimately we just chose the 150K number.
Okay, that makes sense. And then the only other question that I had is, it sounds like these aren't benchmarked to inflation, but we're sort of consistently making that decision, right? So whether it's council salaries, whether it's mayor salaries, right? We're looking at the inflation number, we're looking at the wage increases year over year, and using that to inform our decision. And is it possible to add a CPI, component to this so that we don't need to review it as often? Because, if we're convening a charter review committee and adding things to the ballot that we're voting on, in theory, if it's keeping up with inflation, then we can kind of avoid those. And was that part of it at all? Because I felt like that wasn't something that we said for the city manager settlement, or as opposed to the council and mayor wages.
Yeah, so council mayor wages are set to the CPI and would remain even in this change. And the settlement authority does not have an inflation adjustment, but it is set in an ordinance such that if it needs to be changed or updated, that the council can change the ordinance, that we don't have to go to the voters to change the charter in that case. Did that answer your question?
Okay. Kristel, are we going to get these PowerPoints because you have all these beautiful links? Or is Angela going to send them out?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
thank you. Thank you for this great presentation.
Yeah, thank you. And it is a large file, so we should figure out how to make it smaller. Take out the pictures or something. Yes. Tim, please.
I was just going to comment. Thank you, Kristel, for doing a wonderful job presenting that. That was an awesome job. And I encourage all of you to get educated on this. It was a lot of work by the Charter Review Committee to figure this all out, but it is very worthwhile changes that we arrived at that will make our city a much better place, more efficient. Thanks, Kristel.
Thank you.
Another question, if you'll take one. So I heard you mention perhaps that there was a non-youth opening on the County Sustainability Commission. So is that true? And if so, could you describe the application process? I'm asking for a friend.
Yes. So there were a number of links in one of those slides, and that will help you get to that answer. But yes, there is at least one opening. There's a list on one of the links to find openings on all the commissions, and it's quite confusing when you honestly when you go there. It's not like it says Sustainability Commission XYZ. No, it's by district, like Board of Supervisors district. So in District 1, here's all the openings. In District 2, here's all the openings. The way the 11 members of the Sustainability Commission are decided is that there's one appointed by each Board of Supervisors, so for each district. So there's a District 1 seat, a District 2 seat, etc. And then the remaining 6 seats, including the 2 youth seats, are selected by the county executive with input from the Office of Sustainability. So my particular seat was not one of the district seats, so Otto Lee did not designate me. It was through the County Office of Sustainability that selected me. But there's, in terms of how to apply, there's an application. You send it in. They accept applications all year round. And then when there are openings, then they review the applications. Did that answer your question?
I think it did. Thank you.
And Mike has a question.
Great presentations, both of them.
Can't hear you, Mike.
One for each presentation. The Sustainability Commission.
Still can't hear you.
Is it primarily addressing unincorporated areas, or do
Mike, we really can't hear you.
Can't hear me?
I don't know if Mike is having technical difficulties, if he wants to put his question in the chat because we cannot hear him. But I don't know. So going once, Twice. You may be typing. I don't know. Okay, so I think Mike's going to have to ask his question online, offline. So I think that may be it. Any other questions or announcements or any other business from the floor, from the Zoom? Okay, well, I think that, thank you, Kristel, for your time and your overall time in the county and in the city of Sunnyvale. We really appreciate it. Thank you. And this concludes our meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Bye.